What's going on, everybody? Evan Wanish here, back at you with another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today we're going to be continuing our positional group previews for the 2024 season. We have already done on the defensive side of the ball, we have done the defensive line and the inside linebackers. Today we're going to be talking about the outside linebackers, aka the pass rushers, right? Even though they're listed as outside linebackers, these are the guys that are going to be basically defensive ends. If you guys are more familiar with a 3-4, they're going to be rushing the passer, right? They're going to be trying to get to the quarterback, disrupt the quarterback. And I'm not alone today. Joined with me once again. I'm joined by maybe Mr. Bucs Nation, a.k.a. James Hill. James, pleasure to have you back on.
It's a pleasure to be back, Evan. Yet another group here on the defensive side of things, and should be a lot of fun to discuss this group. This is actually, in some ways, the group that has experienced the most change.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would, yeah. And there's a lot of interesting names. So let's get right into it without further ado. We're going to start off with Chris Braswell. And again, this is on the Buccaneers website. Chris Braswell, the rookie out of Alabama, second-round pick. Yaya Diaby, we all know what Yaya Diaby brought to the table last year. Randy Gregory, for now, I guess. I don't really know.
Randy Gregory, for now.
Randy Gregory, I guess. I'm Randy Gregory, question mark? Like that. Yeah, I'm Rob Burgundy thing.
I'm Randy Gregory.
Dan Graziak, sorry if I butchered that, undrafted free agent out of Cincinnati. Sean Peterson Jr., an undrafted free agent out of UCF. Anthony Nelson, we all know him. Jose Ramirez, we all know him, or at least some people know him. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and Marquise Watts. So there are a lot of intriguing names. The thing that pops out at me right away, the youth on this unit here, besides Randy Gregory, they're all pretty darn young, right? I think besides Gregory, you get to the next oldest guy, Anthony Nelson, drafted in 2019. You know, like this isn't a very old group, and that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. I think that's one of the reasons they signed Gregory, I think, to add that veteran presence. So when you look at this group, when you look at, the age of the guys that they have in it right now, is that something that concerns you at all? Especially if, we don't know about Randy Gregory right now.
Yeah, I think it's concerning. Not in like the worst of ways, because like you said, it is a good thing for like the long-term future if these guys can grow and develop. But like for the immediate sense, and I've said this multiple times on my channel before, like when you have so many inexperienced guys, you don't have like a clear-cut number one guy. Mm-hmm. Right? Like it's maybe Yaya Diaby, considering he was the leading sack guy for the Bucs last year, but you don't know. Like, can you bank on Yaya Diaby to have as productive of a year two as he did in year one? I don't know. I don't think you can 100% bank on that. Can he be better in year two than he was in year one? Again, like that's a lot to ask for such a young player, right? Chris Braswell's a rookie. Anthony Nelson has been a rotational guy throughout his career and is probably going to continue in that role. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is a guy who, is definitely not lived up to the first round moniker so far up to this year. Like, has he been absolutely terrible? No, but he hasn't.
Just not a guy worth a 32nd overall pick.
He's like your third, like he's like a third pass rusher type guy right now. Not a guy that you think is an option as your number one.
And when you're drafting a guy in the first round, you're hoping he can be that. He just hasn't been.
Right. So like
also they did decline his 5th-year option, so it's noteworthy.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of question marks here, right? And this is a unit that has a lot to prove, much like what it has been throughout the entirety of the defense right now. There's a lot of units where you're like, this unit has a lot to prove. This group probably has, I would say, the most to prove. Because you don't have a Vita Vea in that group. You don't have a Levante David in that group. You don't have a Jamel Dean in that group. You don't have a clear-cut number one guy right now. Can somebody rise to the occasion? Yeah, certainly. But it's a lot to ask for a lot of young guys, and I'm going to be very curious to see who, if anybody, can rise. Because, again, like, this could make or break the Bucs defense.
You know who else you don't have in that group? Shaq Barrett. He is no longer there. And I wonder if, the veteran leadership there, yes, his play sort of tailed off towards the end there. injuries, a lot of off-field, tragedy and stuff. Like, I think it messed him up, right? I do. He wasn't the same guy. He tried, right? He tried his darndest. Just wasn't the same player, and that happens. Guys can't recover from a major injury like that. They aren't the exact same. They're out there, but they're not, as productive. But I do wonder about inside that locker room, right? At practice every day. I wonder if they're going to miss a guy like Shaq Barrett and his veteran leadership, and if the Bucs knew Randy Gregory might not show up, I wonder if they would have tried to maybe re-sign Shaq Barrett a little bit harder, after releasing him. I know there was some talk about, him potentially come back on a cheaper deal after he was released, but obviously he is a Miami Dolphin now. But
trade for him. First round pick. Trade for him.
Well, can I trade Tryon-Shoyinka because he was a first round pick? So it's kind of
perhaps. I don't know.
That's moving deck chairs on the Titanic, man. But so anyways, I like Yaya Diaby, right? I do. I think I've said this on the podcast too. I'm pretty much firm out on Tryon-Shoyinka. I've tried to give him chances. If you guys are regular listeners to CFP, you know that I was a fan of Tryon-Shoyinka. I tried to give him chances. It's year 4, man. You are what you are at this point to me. I don't love to judge a draft pick until after 3 years. Then you can sort of really judge it. Yeah. Year 4, he's a guy that's going to top out at 5.5 sacks and not be great in the run defense department. And he's going to overrun the quarterback. He's too fast for his own good sometimes. So I don't know if you can count on him for much. Marquise Watts, we're talking about a guy who is an undrafted free agent who's been on the practice squad, and I don't know, right? Jose Ramirez, talking about a 6th-round pick who was on the practice squad last year. Anthony Nelson, who you mentioned, was more so of a rotational guy. I think the key here for this Buccaneers pass rush is 2 things. One,
Wanish.
can Yaya what?
You.
Well, admittedly, Jason, I'm available if you need me. But one is Yaya Diaby. Can he continue to take another step, right? Can he build on, maybe not say, oh, he got 7.5 sacks last year, so that means he's going to get, 14 this year. No, but will he get 9, right? Can he get something like that? Can he continue to build on what he accomplished last year? The other thing is, can Chris Braswell sort of take a similar trajectory that Diaby did, where I don't expect Braswell to be a starter right away for this team. I think by mid-season, though, you could see him as a starter a lot like Yaya Diaby did. So, and Diaby showed flashes, but once Diaby was able to be the starter, he showed even more. So I wonder if Chris Braswell can take a sort of similar path that Yaya Diaby did last year and turn out all right. And I think if those 2 things happen, I think there's going to be a lot less worry about this pass rush. But for me, I think this is the biggest weakness on the team. All right. I thought it was going into the offseason. I still think it is now. I don't think they have enough pass rush to compete with a lot of the elite quarterbacks they're going to be facing. They face Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts,
Evan Wanish,
Jackson. Yeah, not me. And that's just the list of guys, right? Kirk Cousins is now in the division. You're going to play him twice a year. It's not going to be easy. They play Justin Herbert a little bit later in the season. They play Dak Prescott. They play a lot of dudes, right? And I just don't know if I have enough faith in this pass rush right now. But there are things that I think can happen during the season that could really, I think, help them in a big way.
It's the biggest what if, right? I will say this too, if JTS gets benched again for another rookie, brother, he's gone. He's gone.
They declined his. I think he's already gone. I think this is his last year in Tampa.
Unless he literally goes out there, which, dude, honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's a hot take. Even if he got 10 sacks this year, I think he's still probably gone. Because I think the Bucs would maybe be like, yeah, we'll keep you, but then maybe JTS would be like, nah, dude, I'm gonna go get more money on the open market at that point.
He would probably get, yes.
Yeah, so but this is the biggest what if, man, which is it's the biggest question mark. Look, man, people may even say too, well, what about the secondary? Zion McCollum, Jamel Dean's health and stuff. That group has some more veteran pieces there.
they've added veterans there.
They have more there, in my opinion. Like McCollum showed flashes last year,
and also they have one of the best safety duos in the entire league. Like the safeties would be able to help the corners a little bit as well. Like,
yeah, like this is the biggest question mark right now. And like, look, we're not crapping all over the pass rush or whatever. We are just saying like, hey man, we'll see what happens, right? And like that's a pretty legitimate thing to say right now because nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah, you can say like, oh, I think the unit will be good, but like this is definitely like the biggest like we don't know on the team right now. You know, like
and unfortunately, we're not gonna know until it starts. You know,
no,
we're
like
not
that.
gonna know.
That's another thing too, is like even going into training camp and stuff, like it's like, oh, so and so looks really good. It's like, yeah, but we don't, dude. Like, we're not going to know what this unit's going to look like until they get out there and play in the regular season, you know? And like, I don't know. Would you say like it's either this could go really well or really bad and there might not be an in between? Or do you think like there's enough guys there where it's like, hey, some of these guys could be good, some of these guys could be bad, and then it meets somewhere in the middle?
I do think there's a middle. I think the middle ground is sort of what I described. Like Diaby's not like, oh my God, he's so awesome, right? Like he's taken a step, but he's not like great. And Chris Braswell sort of takes like the slow but steady. Right. I think that's sort of the middle ground. The high end is like, oh, Yaya Diaby is awesome. And like, you know, he is like a dude that's going to get you 10 plus sacks. And Chris Braswell is a dude that as a rookie is going to get you that 7.5. Then all of a sudden, and like Anthony Nelson's been good and stuff like that. And then Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is a rotational piece. Then we're cooking, right? Like, yeah, that to me is the high end. I do think there's a middle ground there, though. But it is kind of like I do think there's, I hate to say this, the likelihood of the awesome version versus the brutal version. I think the likelihood is much more in the brutal favor, unfortunately, for this year. And again, I like Yaya Diaby as a player. I like Chris Braswell. I like the draft pick. It's just about how good can you be? How good do you need to be, right? And the pass rush, one of the reasons they can't beat the Lions and Jared Goff, they can't get a pass rush on them. That's why.
Yeah, like I would say it's a thing of like how quick can you develop and be good, you know? I mean, the Bucs were very fortunate to have Kalijah Kancey and Yaya Diaby develop the way they did last year, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're banking on it again and then some, you know, and that's a lot. Now, I will say too, like, this could be remedied, you know, pretty, you know, in a couple of weeks. Let's say they get in the middle of training camp, they're like, oh boy, I don't know about this one, Chief.
What if Randy Gregory doesn't show up?
Yeah, and well, what I'm saying is like, and then they're like, okay, well, we're getting rid of Randy Gregory, and then we go out and sign. The Bucs go out and sign Emmanuel Ogbah.
I think
Yannick Ngakoue. I'm gonna tell you what, Evan, I feel a lot better about that group.
I do too.
You know, like, is it like up game changing? Like, I don't know, but like, you have a legit number one at that point. You know,
who Ngakoue?
I was saying if you bring in like an Ogbah or an Ngakoue, like at least at that point you're like, okay, they have a veteran and he can be.
Because I mean, Ngakoue is better than Gregory, but
yeah, I'm saying like I'm not saying like he's a dog and he's going to be getting after it, like getting you 12 sacks, 15 sacks. But I'm saying like, okay, well, at least you have like a legit like starting caliber
somebody
veteran.
Who's an NFL starting caliber pass rusher. I get what you mean.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like Joe Tryon-Shoyinka? Do you guys think Yaya Diaby has that next step in him? What do you guys think about Chris Braswell? Do you guys have a lot of questions about the pass rush? I know we talked a lot about that, right? This is the longest video that we've done so far about the positional group previews. I think it's the biggest one with the biggest question marks, as James even said. So I think it kind of warrants it here. But what do you guys think? It's weird to say, do you guys think Randy Gregory's going to show up?
Like, Evan Wanish, is he going to show?
Well, I'm here. So I'm here whenever you need me. But, you know, do we think Randy Gregory's going to be on this team? I don't know. You know, I think he's probably going to be. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts about that situation. But I want to say thank you again to James, Mr. Bucs Nation. Go check out all his stuff on YouTube as well. I'm sure if you're watching us, you probably have at least heard of this guy over here. It's not much to look at, but
Shout out to Anthony, by the way, from Dunkin' Donuts, who I saw recently, by the way.
There you go. Anthony from Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Not a sponsored post.
I wish it
Dunkin'
was.
Donuts, if you want to sponsor Campfire Podcast, you can. Not a sponsored post. With that being said, please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm always curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And go Bucs.